This is a Research Infrastructure Services instructional video.
There are multiple methods in which you can access the storage platform at through RIS. One such way is through the use of Globus, and there are two main methods in which you can access Globus. There's the Globus app, which you can access through the web browser at app.globus.org, as you can see up at the top of my web browser here. And then there's the Globus command line interface, which we have documentation on, but will not be covered in this particular video. This video is solely for using the Globus web browsing app. Now, when you go to the website or the app, you'll be asked to log in, and you can log in using your WSL key credentials through WashU. It will ask that you log in using your institute's credentials, and you can select WashU and log in that way. And then once you're logged in, if you have access to the storage platform, you will be able to get to it, which we will go over here in just a little bit. As you can see, I'm logged in here, and you can see that I'm using my WashU email address. I'm logged in through that account. Now, before we get too far into Globus, what exactly is Globus? It is an application that's been developed to facilitate data transfer from different institutions, what have you, to help facilitate transfer of data that way for processing and other things. Now, to transfer data through Globus, you have to have designated endpoints. They're called endpoints. What these basically are simply locations where data is stored, or locations where you can store data. So if we look over to the side menu here in the app, you'll see that there's a point called endpoints. If we go ahead and click on that, mine is going to pull up some recently used endpoints, and you can see that I have multiple here. The main ones I want to point out is LN Laptop. That's my own personal laptop that I've set up using Globus Connect Personal, which we will go over later on in the video, as well as the two endpoints that are set up by RIS for Storage 1, Storage 1 DTN1 and Storage 1 DTN2. Now, if you're just beginning to use this, these won't pop up in your recently used, but what you can do is you can search endpoints. So if I search for WashU, it will bring up all of the endpoints that have WashU in the name or are related to WashU in some way. The ones we're looking for again here are at the top: WashU RIS Storage 1 DTN1 and WashU RIS Storage 1 DTN2. Now, if you've got your storage allocation set and everything, you can go up here to File Manager to look and see the files on your storage allocation. So if we click over to this page, you can see there's a left-hand side and a right-hand side, and this is to facilitate visual representation of the two endpoints that you're going to transfer data between. So if we want to look at the first endpoint, we can go over here to the collection, and we click on the search. Since I've already recently used some of these endpoints, we can just then click on the Storage 1 endpoint that we want to use. And now, in order to see your data, you won't be able to just double click here on the Storage 1 folder, because users do not have access to see everybody's storage, and it's not going to give you the permission to see what's there. So if we go up here to the path, we can put in our storage allocation location like you would in Compute 1, or you would when you're connecting through other means. So here we'll go ahead and put storage 1. You can see mine, because I've been using Globus, there are multiple storage allocation points that pop up. We'll just go ahead and go with my first one. So here you can see the full path is storage 1, FS1, LN active, where LN would be replaced with whatever your lab's allocation name was that was given, and then active because I'm going to my active allocation. So if I hit enter here, you can see now, okay, I can see all my files that were that are in my active storage allocation. For the point of this, we'll just use our instructional videos file that we have going here to see, and you can see we have a list of files of MP4 files that are the videos that are our instructional videos to date. Now, if I want to transfer data between storage 1 and say my own personal computer, or just another location in general, we'll go over here and you select the next endpoint you want to use. In this case, we're going to use my laptop, and like I said again, I'll go over here later on in the video how to get your own personal computer, or say a lab computer, set up to be able to be used through Globus. So here we can see that we have my files that are on my computer, and if we go to desktop here, and then intro video is a directory, you can see that we have some directories or some files here that we don't have on storage, and so we're going to do a bit of a transfer of data here to show how that works. So to be able to transfer data between the 2 points on whichever endpoint or location you want to be your source, so the beginning point, you click on that side and you select the files you wish to transfer, and then down here at the bottom where it says start and it has an arrow pointing across, meaning you're going to be transferring it to the other endpoint, in this case storage. Then you can click start. Now up here it'll say your transfer request submitted successfully, and you can view the details through this, or if we close it out, you can go over here and you can see this little activity menu on the side menu here, and just a moment ago you saw that it had a little green 1, and what that means is that you have an active transfer going. So if we click over here, we can see that this transfer that I did just a few seconds ago has already completed, because these files I was transferring are small files, and so it did not take much time for them to transfer. If we go in and look at the details here, it says there are 2 files. It tells us how much data was transferred in these files and how fast the effective speed. The effective speed's not considerably high because the files are so small in this case. So it's succeeded. So now if we go back to our file manager and we click over back onto the storage, not what I want. There we go. If we click back over onto this side and we hit refresh list, you can now see that those 2 files, introduction statement and RIS video introduction.mp4, are both in our storage allocation now. There are multiple options for down here for your transfer and sync. The first one is sync, which is only transfer new or change files. The second one is delete files on destination that do not exist on source. For most users' needs, you are not going to want to use this, especially if you have multiple contributors to one folder or one destination, as you don't want to accidentally delete someone else's data. Another option here is preserve source file modification times, and what this means is if I save a file on my computer on Monday, but I don't transfer it until Thursday, without this option on storage, it will have a modification date of Thursday because that's when I created and put the file on storage. However, if I select this preserve file modification times, it was created on Monday on my computer. When I transfer it, then it'll save that information and have that Monday creation time on storage. And the last one, which is automatically checked, is verify file integrity after transfer. And what this does is it uses a checksum or basically an identifier of the file, and checks to make sure that the identifier, this checksum, is the same on the destination as it is on the source, to make sure that it transferred the file correctly and you have the full file or the same file in both locations. So we're going to go over quick this sync option, and this is very important because if you have a file that you just want to be able to transfer over all the new or modified files and not mess with old files that haven't been modified without transferring them, you can use this because it will transfer only the new or changed files. So if we click on it, it gives us some more options. The first option here that's automatic is where the checksum is different, and this is going back to that identifier that I mentioned before. And what it does is if two files are the same, it will see if that identifier is different, and if it is, it transfers the file and updates the file on your destination endpoint. And if they're the same, it won't touch the files, it won't transfer them. And then of course, if the file doesn't exist on the endpoint that you're transferring to, it obviously will transfer because the checksums aren't going to be the same. Some other options is file does not exist on destination, so this will simply just transfer all files that don't exist on the destination and will not update the existing files. The other option is where the file size is different, so this will check to see if the file size is different, and if it is different on the source compared to the destination, it will go ahead and transfer it and override the file on the destination, and this will also transfer over the new files. And then modification time is newer, so this means that if the modification time is newer on your source than it is on your destination, it will transfer the file across and update on your destination. I just use the default of checksum is different because that suits my needs. Some of the other options may suit your needs if you're a more advanced user, and you can change to those to know what you need in order to transfer. So now if we click to minimize this and go back to my laptop, as you can see, this file and these two files are already on storage. But if we go ahead and select everything that's in this file with this sync option selected, we can go ahead and click start to start our transfer, and this will only send over the files that aren't on storage or have been changed. I don't have any that I've changed, so this will just only send over the ones that aren't on storage. Again, submitted. So if we go over here to activity, we can see that this file is indeed these files are indeed in the transfer, and this is going to take a little bit more time to transfer these because there's more files, and I think a couple of them are a little bit bigger than the ones we did before. So while we wait on that, I'm going to go ahead and go over this Globus Connect Personal. So what this does is, as long as you have connection to internet on the machine you're using, you can download this app and install it. And when you install it, you just go through the steps like a normal install on the of a program on the operating system you're using. This is available for Mac, Linux, and Windows. And what it does is it will install this Globus Connect Personal and connect to the whole the Globus app system and creates an endpoint for your personal computer. You can also set this up to as long as you have internet connections on your lab machine to create an endpoint for your lab machine. So if we look here, up here, I have it currently running. You can see that it's ln-laptop, which is what we saw earlier. Says my status is idle right now, but it has different options here, but it is running on my computer. If I were to quit out of this, I wouldn't be able to connect to it through the Globus app at all. But since this is running, I can use my computer as an endpoint in the Globus app to transfer data between. Now, because of this and because I'm able to create an endpoint for my own personal laptop, I prefer using Globus to transfer files from my computer over to storage. As I can use a web browser. I can do this anywhere that I have a web browser, as long as I can connect in to Globus through my WashU WSUKey credentials, and I can transfer data and continue working on my data. Now, you don't have to do the actual transfers from the computer you're using as the endpoint. So if this, let's say that this computer here was my was my lab computer, and I had that up and running, and this was my endpoint, I could log in to the Globus app from my personal computer that's at my desk, or when I'm at home, as long as I have, the VPN up and running, so I can use my WashU credentials. I can log in, I can access my lab computer as an endpoint and storage as an endpoint, and transfer data without having to actually go in physically into my lab and sit down at the computer and transfer the files over. This does require, however, that your lab computer be on, connected to the internet, and that Globus Personal Connect running. As long as those are running, you'll be able to connect to it and transfer the data that way. As you can see here, my transfer is finished. So if we want to go in, we can look at the details again. As you can see, I was transferring 8 files. There was not a lot of data to be transferred, but it skipped 3. So those 3 that were already on storage, since they were there and they weren't changed in any form, they were skipped and I didn't retransfer them. If I were to do a normal transfer without that sync, it would transfer all files and override any of the files that are on the storage or your endpoint that you're going to. So now if we go back here to File Manager, we click here and once again refresh, you can see that we have more of those files. We have that screenshot that's saved, we have that title intro, we have another image and a GIF and some other files. They've all been transferred over. You can also use this to manipulate files if you wish. So if I go here, I can go ahead and I can use this to transfer a sync to a place. Just I can rename it, I can delete it, or I can get a link to it, which means I'm sharing this particular file through a link to someone. In this case, because I really don't need these files in my storage allocation, we'll select this delete here and get it deleted off of storage. So if I select this delete, it'll come up. It's going to ask you, are you sure? You can label this delete so that maybe you have a note of why you're deleting this file or why it was deleted. In this case, I know why it's deleted. It's not really a big deal for me, so I'm just going to click this delete. As you can see, it submits a request to be processed just like a transfer, and this will pop up into activity. And in this case, it's a small file. The delete has already been transferred and it's done. So that is the basic layout and usage that you can do through the Globus app. Again, I'll repeat that as long as you have a web browser, you can connect to the Globus app, as well as long as you can log in through your WashU credentials as well. And then as long as you have those qualifications for your own personal endpoint set up, say on your laptop or on a lab computer, or maybe an instrument computer that's connected through the that can connect to the internet. You can then transfer data from that endpoint to storage and vice versa. So that's Globus.